Hi, everybody. This week's topic is legacy. Talk to you guys a little bit about legacy, and I appreciate you guys joining me. I looked up legacy, and the definition of legacy is an amount of money or property left to someone in a will is a legacy. Something transmitted by or received by an ancestor or predecessor in the past is a legacy. I define legacy. Let's see what the definition of legacy on Merriam-Webster: a gift of by will of especially money or other personal property. Something transmitted or received, blah, 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 a candidate for membership. When I talk about legacy is really just basically, I think it was this time of year is good to talk about it, as the end of the year is coming and you could think about what you've done, and reflect on stuff. And I think one of the big things that people fall into is, what am I going to do next year, instead of taking away what you've learned from this year and try to push that forward on the next thing that you do. So I've always found in my failures lessons, and people a lot of times are just like, oh, forget what happened, move on and go. And you need to learn from those kind of things. So the thing where legacy got to me, I was in like the late, I guess it was early 2000s maybe, probably early 2000s. Me and James Murray from the Impractical Joker show that I'm on, we used to write this thing up called the motivational plan. And it was broken down into categories. I found some of my old ones. And it was like, it would break it down by like mind. And mind would have subsections, like it's mind, intellect, and mind, attitude. And then it would be like body for like physical stuff. And then it would be like spiritual, or for the soul, I call it soul. It was like things like that were always on my mind about what am I doing here? And always on my thing was like, I had to be aware of my legacy. And I really think it spawned from losing my father early. My father passed away when I was 19 years old. And I was always like, he had such an impact on my life. And I can't believe that part of me, like learned so much from a man in 18 years and had such an impact on me, basically. And now being a father really just taught me how to be a father and a husband and things of that nature. So I think the legacy I really got lost on. I would say to Merle all the time, I would say, what's my legacy going to be? I'd always be thinking about legacy. And when we were trying to name the troupe Impractical Jokers, our comedy troupe, the Tenderloins, one of the names that I pitched was Some Die Nameless. And I remember the guys being like, "Whoa, it's like supposed to be a comedy troupe." I'm like, "But guys, some people just they die and that's it. They haven't done anything in the world. Nobody's gonna remember them." I said, "I don't want to be one of those people. I want to be somebody who makes an impact on the world." And I'm talking, this is in 1999. 21 years ago at this point, right? So like, this is literally when we're naming the Tenderloins. I'm like, I want to be that. And I think your legacy is multiple things, right? For me, mostly it's not only the footprint that you do on the world, but it's the footprint you do on your world. And what I mean by that is the thing I always talk about is, you can't change the world, but you have a lot of control over your world, right? You can't end prejudice, racism, sexism, any of that stuff easily in the world, right? You could take actions to go through that, but you can make the choice not to be friends or take part in racist things that happen within your friend group, such as jokes or things that you don't find comfortable, or sexist kind of things. My two young nephews, I remember this really young, they were listening to a song, and they were like 14, I guess at this point. They're men now, they're 20 and 22 and 19, and they were talking, and they referred to girls as bitches. And to hear my nephews say it stopped me dead in my tracks. And I said, you have a sister. Would you want people calling her a bitch? One of their bitches or whatever? And I saw like the moment of that, and it was like, oh, I really affected their world and my world at the same time. So I think that had a part of it. I always was like, what are people going to remember me for? So now I know people are going to remember me for like just taking my shirt off and yelling for a guy named Larry and breaking things with my body. I've never imagined I would have, basically my children have a chronicle of me growing up on television, for a decade. And we'll have that. Some people have home videos and whatnot, but my children have gotten something that I could never even have imagined that they will remember me by, and also the world or the people, the fans and friends or whatnot, they'll have something to remember me by, which is this crazy, impactful comedy show, and whatever I go forward to do from that jumping off point. So that is never lost on me, and I want to thank everybody for that. And I feel very blessed and fortunate to be able to try to change the world as little as I can with a little bit of the power and influence that has given me. My other thing of legacy is that people are going to remember me for my love of desserts and my love of being silly. I think that was a big thing. I'm not taking myself too seriously. I think a lot of people take themselves a little seriously. Everything that I have opinions on serious stuff, but I just know that they're most of the time it's just my opinion. All I could try to do is shed light on some things for people, So that's where my heart's at most of the time. So thank you so much for joining me on this topic, legacy. Graham Golden on Twitter asks, at Graham Golden. I love Graham. Hi, Graham. What does legacy mean to you, and why is legacy important for all of us to consider? I think it's very important. The main thing about legacy is we're all only here for a moment, and let's try not to waste it, right? You can impact people simply with a smile. And I think it's important to know, don't waste the opportunity you have, because you only get one ride, So I really think it's important to try to do an impact, because it's so precious, and you just need to remember that. At Curl Professor says, how tied to family blood relation is a legacy? I think it's super tied to it. I think it starts with family. But it doesn't have to be, because it could also be by your community and stuff. Right? I mean, there's plenty of people that have redefined communities and helped build parts of community and influenced strangers, influenced children that they know and stuff. So I think it's important to do that too, through charity or volunteering or just being the type of person by setting an example. So I think that's also part of it. At Deb2_Debbie says, what's an action you'd like people to do long after and think of you? I think the be kind is, when you can, choose kindness. I think that's really important. It's become more and more important to me in my life as I've had children and as I've realized how much influence your words can have. So I think it's kind of important to be kind. And I'll hear from people, not so much more now, because I think now they get it, but in the beginning especially, about, how'd you say that about your show? Your show is, you guys just, pick on each other and, and you bully Murr specifically and stuff. And it's like, no, we don't. We don't do that. We're friends, and friends mess around with each other, and we're all active and willing participants. So there's no such thing as bullying somebody. So you're not an active and willing participant in a bullying situation. So there, we are kind to each other, and I love those guys like brothers. So I think that's really, and also you see the 22 minutes on camera, not the 30 years of friendship. You see more of it now because of dinner party and whatnot. But I think it's important to know that. What is the most treasured legacies that your parents and grandparents gave you? I think the family reunion is a huge one for me. Also, my father taught me the power of a written letter. He had written. What do you think? He had wrote me a letter. He had wrote me a letter about when I was a junior in high school, and he was just super honest in it. Told me how much he loved me. Told me what he loved about me, and it's probably my most cherished possession. I still have that handwritten letter that he sent me, and that for me did two things. I love receiving a handwritten letter. I love receiving cards and notes from people. I also know the importance of giving that to people. It inspired me to do this here. It's called Milana's First Days, and it's a book where I just wrote Milana a handwritten note in the front, and then each day of school, I would take a picture of her holding the book. So that's her at preschool. And then when she came home, I'd interview her, and I'd write her answers. So I've done this every year for her, and I've done it 1 year for Remo. They each had their own books. And for instance, I would say, how was your first day? She said, great. and she has her own bathroom in her classroom. And I said, how is the bathroom? And she said, it has a toilet that flushes by itself, but it's a little black button that you press if it gets broken, but it's so loud. And I asked her, did you play? And she said, Dad, I have an office. My desk is open, but you don't really open it and close it. You just slip things in them, because she's obsessed with my office and she loves my desk. So that was it. that inspired me to do that for her. So that really had an impact on me. Legacy definitely came apart with like an heirloom thing for me. I always felt that I have my dad's J. He wore a J, and I have that I used to wear. I didn't take it off for 10 years after he passed away. And then I came to a thing where I thought I had to be my own man, so I took it off and I kept it. Of course, it's in my jewelry box inside, but stuff like that I think is really important. What is legacy you would like to leave your kids with? That kind of stuff, heirloomy wise. I love like this stuff because it's not like a physical thing, but it's part of me, I think, which is important. For me, I do not know a person that didn't like my father. I did not. I did not know anybody that had a bad word to say about my father. So that's something that I think I aspire to. I think it's important I think kids really absorb how their parents are perceived by people around them. So I think that's an important thing too. The legacy I'm leaving my kids is basically over 300 episodes of television and a movie. So they get to see a lot of that, which is kind of interesting too, I think. So I think that's important. What entertainers do you feel have left a legacy in your life and on the world, and why? The first one that comes to mind is Mel Brooks. I think he defined a comedic. He really broke off a piece of comedy and made it his own and really shook it up in a way that I think is phenomenal. For me, Mel Brooks probably did that in a big way. So I would say Mel Brooks. Will Larry be your legacy, or are you his? Ina Do 85 says. It's a good question. What came first, the Larry or the Joe? I don't know. I think the legacy of yelling for Larry, I'm going to take advantage. I'm going to say that's mine. I'm going to say that's on me. I'm going to say that finding Larry has become part of my legacy. What do you want to be remembered and known for? Making people smile and laugh. That's what I really want. At Big Brain Jack 21 asks on Instagram. That's definitely what I want to be remembered and known for sure. I just love I live to make people laugh. I just do it. It's so much fun. Do you have any regrets? Not many. Not many. I would say not spending more time at home with my younger children has become a regret of mine. The work-life balance I probably did not handle perfectly in the beginning. That's probably something I'd regret or do differently. Has your opinion on your legacy changed with age? Asks at the Hazy Boy. Yes, very much, very much. As I got older, I was always very aware of mortality though. So it's not like, oh, I'm getting closer to dying. Like, it wasn't like that at all. I think, but as I got older and I could see the impact that I had on people, strangers, fans, people just I bump into in life or were in my life, I think it became very important to me. And my most important thing was now children, of course. Like, nothing makes you think about how you can be remembered more than your children. At TLin8903 asks, what is one quality you are most proud of to associate with your legacy? Aside, I was going to say what your aside was, as it says, aside from your ability to make people laugh. I think it's trying to show a love for animals, the Adopt Don't Shop movement that I'm really behind. I feel like I've impacted that whole world pretty hard. Not just by bringing 9 dogs into my home, but it's 12 dogs at this point that have been through the Gatto home. But I think an awareness and meeting so many cool people through that and helping raise the awareness of these great associations that do stuff. Launching the whole Gatto Pups thing. I love that. You could follow us on Twitter at Gatto Pups or Instagram at Gatto Pups. like being behind that and having this new, like, I think that's a big thing, and I hope for one day that will turn into a charity of mine to really help rescue animals and shelters and provide support for people there. I think that's kind of fun. So I think that's probably a quality of love for animals, I would say, and compassion, for sure, compassion. At GenGen2187 asks, what do you hope for your kids to learn about friendship from your years with the guys? That's a good question. I think you learn the value of friendship. I always had the saying, winners surround themselves with winners, right? And I think it's important to know that your circle of friends should be a tight-knit group, that it's definitely quality, not quantity. And I think it's important that the thing that's weird with the boys is we were tight in the beginning, right? We were tight when this started. We were tight going through this stuff and whatever, but we became so tight because nobody could understand what we were going through with the struggle to get on television, then to get on television, and the rise of the fame and the working hard to keep it going and all that, and taking the stage for the first time and hearing people yell for us and going from theaters to comedy clubs to theaters to arenas to having a movie and all this. Like, nobody could really, you could say that to your thing. I say this all the time. You could tell your friends about those stories, but I was able to turn and look at them and be with them in the moments. So I think that had a big impact on our friendship, is that we went through this together, and nobody does that. People who are with Rise to Fame don't normally rise together. It's only you rise and meet each other or whatever, so you rise independently and then you get on the same level. And then you become friends or friendly and there's a genuine friendship there, yeah, but it doesn't have the history that it has. Like Kevin Hart and The Rock, love them together, love them individually. But they met at superstar status. So it's kind of interesting. Who would I be? I'd be Kevin Hart or The Rock in that situation. I'd probably be The Rock. I might be Kevin Hart too. I'd be Kevin Rock. So I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think that makes the boys, and I want the kids to take away from that you might find a friend, like even more so than the boys, is my next door neighbor when I was growing up, Jason Joseph. Love him. One of my oldest friend. I was 2, he was 1 when we moved in next to each other on Harbor Road. We're still friends to this day. Our kids played together. He recently moved to the West Coast, and we keep in touch now, but he was like my best friend growing up. Had such an affinity for him, such a love for him. We had kids together. Watching our kids play together blew my mind. Like, that's really, really cool. So I think that's important, to keep a friendship that's worth it and fight for a friendship that's worth it. Did you ever think you were going to be famous? No, I didn't think I was ever going to be famous. I knew I was doing the comedy thing on the side, and I got lucky enough, and here I am. What advice do you have for a new father? Wash the bottles. Wash the effing bottles. It's so tough. Like, in the beginning, like, you have nothing to do with that kid. You have everything to do with take care of the mother. It's just the truth. The baby needs the mother, wants the mother. The mother has these instincts that knows you are there to help, support, and give love to that child and the mother. But I think it's very important to make sure that you're present to be helping mom as she is going through an emotional roller coaster. That's something I took away from the whole thing. And I freaking love you. I love you too. So thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in to watch 10 Topics Live with Joey G. This week's was Legacy. I hope that you got a little bit of insight to who I am, maybe a little reflection on you and what you could do about your impact on the world, both big and small. I can't thank you enough for being so special and giving me this platform to talk to everyone. And the great questions. So again, you follow me on @Joe_Gatto on Twitter and Instagram. I'm just trying to be brave, be kind, and be a Gatto. And that's what we say here in my household. So love you guys. Thank you so much. And if you need a hug right now, here's one virtually. You can high five, fist bump, whatever you want.